Hi guys. Before we proceed to this video, we've got something very important to share with you. Neoliberalism, Inequality and Authoritarianism by Professor John V. Kofis is available for purchase. You can order it directly from the publisher Little French eBooks or through Amazon.
Hello everyone, welcome. I want to stress that one of the major countries in the G7, namely France, has been experiencing political and social instability for a number of months now, and especially in September of 2025. The instability of France reflects the instability of all of Europe. The fact is that the government of France, led by Emmanuel Macron since 2017, has been very unstable, is reflected in the fact that he's changed 7 prime ministers during that period. And the reality that all along, all during that period, the people, the vast majority of the people of France, have been against him, as reflected in public opinion polls, as I'll indicate shortly. What we have in France is the sort of instability that could jeopardize the European Union in a very real sense, as it is a reality that France and Germany are the hegemonic powers of the European Union. On September 10th, just a day after, a day and a half or so after, the prime minister of the ruling party, of Macron's party, namely François Bayrou, did not win a vote of confidence in parliament, so he had to leave. He was ousted. That day, the 10th of September, just the day after actually he was ousted officially, there were mass demonstrations throughout France. Hundreds of thousands of people took part in that, and an estimated 80,000 police officers were out in the streets trying to suppress the demonstrators. The demonstrators were working class as well as middle class, and they demanded a regime, a change in the course. I shouldn't say regime change, but a change in the course of the neoliberal political economy, combined with militarism that has been used under Macron to bring the country to the level that it has. And the issue that has been at the forefront is debt, public debt. And the Macron government has been trying to continue to slash social welfare programs in order to bring down that debt, and of course, without any kind of shared sacrifice for the very wealthy, which are about, there are only 500, I think, billionaires and multimillionaires, but the billionaires, I should say, and then 10% of the population, according to statistics, 10% of the population owns 80% of the wealth. So what we have in France is, in not just under Macron, this is not just him, is a 40, 50-year period of since François Mitterrand, who was a socialist in the 1980s, who switched, as we'll see in the longer video that I invite you to watch, who embraced neoliberalism and embraced some of the policies, although he tried that other countries, including Germany, the United States, and England, of course, leading the neoliberal movement globally and urging other countries to follow suit, namely reduce taxes on the wealthy, slash social safety net programs, um, raise the expectations of the working class to work for lower pay. And one of the reasons we have seen the social safety net, we have seen a combination of the social safety net slashed, as well as stagnation, relative stagnation in wages, is that and simultaneous rise in the income levels, the wealth levels of the richest 10% in France, is precisely because of this, which reflects more or less the neoliberal pattern of privatizing public assets, selling them for pennies on the dollar to the wealthy, to corporations, and of course, tax breaks and corporate subsidies. So the corporate welfare state model that exists in Japan, in South Korea, in the United States, in Germany, in England, also exists in France. The trade unions in France, led by CGT, is a powerful entity, and in fact, it was very instrumental in these mass demonstrations. After Macron almost immediately, within a couple of days, announced that he had a new prime minister, Sébastien Lecornu, the trade unions and all the trade unions announced, working class movements, grassroots movements announced, as we'll see in the longer video, another mass demonstration that took place on 18 September 2025. That was even bigger. More than 1 million people participated in that one, demanding the resignation of Macron, demanding that he call new elections. The thing with France, of course, is where is this all headed, considering this is a country, this is the country that brought us the revolution of 1789, that inspired liberal democracy on a world scale. This is also the country that took the lead in the revolutions, the European revolutions of 1848, that inspired Marx and Engels, the Communist Manifesto, and working class movements throughout the Western world, and even in Latin America as well, of course, in Asia as well. This is the country of strong grassroots movements, strong trade union traditions, but this is also the country that has given us people like Maurice Barré, an intellectual in the late 19th century, who was the ideological, one of the ideological figures in the birth of fascism. He believed that liberal democracy, like that of France and Western Europe, was a fraud, and that true democracy is authoritarianism. So there is also that tradition in France. And of course, there is Vichy France during World War II. So the fact is that there are these two strains of revolutionary France, pro-labor, social justice oriented France, and then there is the other trend. And right now, these trends are represented in the French parliament. You have basically Marine Le Pen's political party, which represents the far right, which is neo-fascist, and then Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who represents a coalition of the left, an anti-neoliberal, pro-social justice trend, with a very weak middle, a very weak bourgeois, center-right conservative, pro-neoliberal. The question for France, of course, is where is it headed? And this is important because wherever France is headed, it's not like Italy under Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister of Italy right now, who has a lot of neo-fascist tendencies and tends to side with Trump and figures of that ilk who are neoliberal, but authoritarian neoliberal, not pluralist neoliberal. So the question for France, however, is if this country goes to someone like Marine Le Pen in the next elections, 2027, I believe, what will this mean for the rest of Europe? What will it mean for the European Union? These are some of the questions that I raised in the analytical video. The crisis in the French political system, in French society today in 2025, and where is society headed with these three major strains. Of course, there are scholars who argue that none of these could pan out. There could be a grassroots movement that undertakes some kind of a revolutionary trend, in my view, and brings about a totally different direction for the French government. In my view, the authoritarian trend seems to be the strongest, and the reason is because of the center right politicians like Macron, and before him, of course, others like Nicolas Sarkozy. So this is a very dangerous situation here, and we're going to discuss this. I'm going to discuss this, and I invite all of you to, by all means, join me and write questions and comments about this video, as well as I ask you to please join this channel. Thank you very much.